Hello dear viewer, look at this guy! This is one of my oldest builds on this channel.
Perfected.
The Ultimate Mage Hunter, as in the most anti-magic character I can possibly make that is still perfectly playable, at least on Master difficulty. I would still recommend starting the playthrough at Expert of course, but Master is doable despite some very harsh house rules this character concept entails, and that is, we don't use any magic items. At all! No spells, no shouts, nothing of magical nature except the very much needed natural magic of alchemy. This guy really detests magic users. He's been traumatized by Hagravens during his time with the Forsworn. Don't ask. Like really, it's an ugly story, really don't ask. One might say alchemy is a form of magic too. It's natural magic though, relying on patience and devotion to the craft, which at least in the mind of this former Forsworn is acceptable. AKA in the absence of enchanted items, we really need alchemy to buff some of our stats for higher difficulty settings. Also, what he lacks in sheer power he makes up for in versatility, being able to switch between various combat styles as needed. There is a lot of combos for characters like this. Sadly, most of them only available late game, which means the early game is going to be rather challenging. We use archery among other combat styles, so maybe the best solution is to start the game as a sneak archer, then slowly spreading into dual wielding and mace and shield, and also dagger and shield. Everything has its place in this eclectic combat style. Characters like this benefit from alchemy greatly, as it allows you to buff whatever skill might be underdeveloped at any given time. It can improve your elemental resistances, which may be needed before you can craft a batch of spell absorption potions. Yes, as of anniversary upgrade, we can craft potions of spell absorption, which always has the value of 50% regardless of your skill, which means it's rather useful for the Atronach stone users. These ingredients are very rare, you can buy them only from the Khajiit caravans, so for a smoother playthrough you may need to use an exploit and punch a Khajiit merchant, of course, not just a random Khajiit, a Khajiit merchant, and reload until the right ingredients show up in the merchant's inventory. Withering Moon is one such ingredient. It also has a stronger than usual Fortify Light Armor effect on it, which is great because we do use light armor. Comberry and Daedra Venom are some other ingredients with spell absorption. Try to get some alchemy perks and decent potions before, say, level 15, especially Fortify One-Handed and Archery, because the game will expect you to have some Fortify skill enchantments at this point. As you play, make better potions and grow in levels, you get some awesome tactical combat options. The most useful seems to be shield charging everyone to knock them to the ground and then switching to the two-weapon combat, a dagger in your left hand and a mace in your right, to execute some devastating dual power attacks before they can even stand back up. This is your extreme power move, perfect against most enemies in most scenarios, but if you go against a single but powerful enemy, like maybe a Draugr Overlord, shield and dagger is a perfectly valid and underrated form of combat in Skyrim. Your shield bashes can stun lock that foe while you deliver a series of really fast attacks and power attacks. Shield and mace is perfect against spellcasters because your shield will eventually grant you 50% elemental damage resistance, of course, just in case you cannot reach 100% spell absorption in that particular fight. And the mace will reduce armor rating and prevent spellcasting for a very brief period. With our shield, the Targe of the Blooded, shield bashes will also deal stacking ongoing damage, which we can combine with some ample ongoing damage of lingering damage health poisons. Yes, Targe of the Blooded is allowed within the rules. I think basically any item that doesn't require Arcane Blacksmith to be tempered and cannot be disenchanted may be used. They are not magical, or the magic in the item is innate to the object and as natural a magic as alchemy. And don't even get me started about poisons. You can use your amazing crossbow to slow down the enemies to a crawl, especially that some Vokri perks will slow them even more, at which point you basically won. At point, of course, when they all move extremely slowly and you move extremely fast because you have some perks for that. So yeah, this is a modded build, although very lightly modded. For a pure vanilla playthrough, I would suggest using an axe instead of a mace, cause axes can deal ongoing bleeding damage in vanilla, which will stack with the charge of the blooded effect. I used Vokri perks because the original build was vanilla, so why make it vanilla again? But you will be missing out on only a few cool things without Vokri. You won't be able to avoid all incoming damage by silent rolling, for example, or to halve all incoming damage, well, physical incoming damage when sprinting, but the build should still be quite effective in pure vanilla. For the video though, I used Vokri perks and Reliquary of Myth, which makes the Charge of the Blooded deal more DOT with power bashes. It's useful, but again, nothing really groundbreaking. For the attributes we need to go 50-50 health to stamina. In vanilla I would go more in favor of health, as we cannot use fortified smithing items and so we won't reach the armor cap, at least not with the armor set I've chosen. In Vokri, stamina can increase your damage output significantly, so it's 1-to-1. The race is a Breton. Oh, what else? The Breton Dragonskin power can be used once per day to max out on spell absorption, as it stacks with the Atronach Stone. Yes, the original Mage Hunter used the Lord Stone and Alchemy and Agent of Mara to reach high magic resistance, but there was no spell absorption potions back then. Now, as mentioned, with some patient shopping sprees with the Khajiit caravans, you can have another way of reaching full spell absorption, so it is more feasible to rely on that, even if you don't want to wait 24 hours between fights. Now for the skills we need one-handed block, archery, light armor, sneak, alchemy and smithing. Because we combine many combat styles and we sort of have to, otherwise we will be rather weak on higher difficulties, the build as presented actually needs a few levels more than 50. You may choose to skip a perk here and there, but as presented it's a level 55 build. Sorry about that. If you don't mind sticking with the character for even longer than that, on the other hand, a few more perks in alchemy could possibly make a world of difference. Vokri alchemy is, really fun and effective. At any rate, in one-handed we need these perks here. That is a lot of perks. We definitely want the mace perks, of course. One rank of denting blows is going to reduce the target's armor by 100, which stacks nicely with the Alcahest perk in alchemy, which makes you ignore 50% of armor of a poisoned enemy. This, with some extra damage on power attacks coming from the Furious Strength perk, already makes me stress out about the lack of fortified smithing items a lot less. Disrupting Strike can silence an enemy if you hit them during their spellcasting, which suits a Mage Hunter extremely well, I think. With a dagger in your left hand, your dual-wielding power attacks are going to be fast enough to interrupt any spellcasting, especially if you focus it on a single target. So one rank of Dual Flurry and the Dual Savagery were also taken. As mentioned, we like to use fast dual power attacks to execute enemies previously knocked out with a shield charge. The faster the better. Dagger perks were taken, but in hindsight they don't matter that much. The dagger and shield combat style is mighty useful and fun for some other reasons, like the power attack perks of Valorous Charge and Crater Maker. Power attacks are fast and don't cost much stamina with daggers. Your chances of sending people flying with a forward power attack are the highest with a fast weapon, like a dagger. Also, Victory Rush at the very top of the tree should be unlocked as soon as possible. It restores your stamina on kills. Theoretically, you rely on stamina so much, you may as well just keep chugging stamina potions instead. I think it is way more convenient to get some steady stamina healing, which doesn't require any extra micromanagement. There is quite a lot of inventory management already with this build, so yeah. Speaking of hurling people away, we definitely want the shield charge in the middle of the block tree. Elemental protection and block runner are both quite vital, of course, as you may need some extra protection against elemental damage, and movement speed is the key to your battlefield success. Consider power leveling block around level 20, otherwise without enchantments or spells, the level scaling of this game may begin to humiliate you and crush your dreams with impunity. Then we get power bash to keep our enemies staggered and, in case of Reliquary of Myth, deal more ongoing damage with the Touch of the Blooded. And for archery, we want the long distance perks all the way to the top of the tree with the pinning shot perk. We should have a lot of poisons of slow accrued over the time. Pinning shot also slows your targets down. This means you can avoid close combat even if you can't one-shot some enemies. It also means applying some more advanced poisons should be even easier than ever, like maybe lingering damage health poisons or something like that. Poisons of damage over time will also stack fabulously with the impaling shot perk, which deals damage over time to your targets as long as they run. So again, each time a melee opponent tries to close the gap between you and them. Eagle Eye was taken for convenience, but since this is a rather stretched build, consider it optional or low priority. Mobility is the key to success, so we need some light armor perks ASAP. Fit and training, of course, but also most of the perks on the rightmost side of the tree. Agility, Windrunner, War Dancer, and most importantly, Evasive Sprint. Evasive Sprint makes you take only half the physical damage from incoming attacks as long as you sprint, which is rather neat considering we are unlikely to reach max armor rating. Windrunner increases your movement speed, which will also get a boost from the Adrenaline perk in Alchemy. Coincidentally, these light armor perks also make a shield charge even better than usual. Your shield is raised during that charge, so that's extra elemental protection. And it is a sprint, so the physical incoming damage is also halved. But we can't rely on speed and close combat exclusively, not with our hardline rejection of most things magical. So the sneak skill needs to be used and perked with the sneak attack, deadly aim, and assassin's blade, as well as the good old shadow warrior. Dodge roll is going to be another godsend. It makes you momentarily immune to all damage when you roll on the ground. All of it magic and weapon alike. Even if you are out of spell absorption potions and your dragon skin power is on cooldown. This mighty dodge roll can be followed with a power attack of Valorous Charge, meaning you get a combo that makes you invulnerable, then deals extra critical damage, possibly sneak attack damage, and with Crater Maker has a chance to knock your target prone. You will likely roll a lot in the late game. 1 or 2 ranks of silent movement are also advised, considering we cannot wear any muffle or fortify sneak items. Smithing needs to be perked up to and including advanced armors, which will allow us to make the Dawnguard armor legendary quality and craft some beautiful and useful Nordic weapons. With the Dawnguard side quest completed, you will also be able to make an enhanced Nordic crossbow, an item available in the Anniversary Edition. This is nice. At least I didn't need to take the Dwarven Smithing just for the crossbow. Last but definitely not least, we need quite a few alchemy perks. Benefactor for better buffs, Stimulants for an improved stamina regeneration while under the influence, which will stack with agility stamina regen, and of course with food and potions. And the Adrenaline perk will give you another 10% movement speed when under the influence of food and potions. To keep those buffs going for a bit longer, 1 rank of slow metabolism was also taken. Concentrated poison, 2 out of 3 is needed so that your poisons can be applied to more targets. The gear for the Mage Hunter looks as follows. The Touch of the Blooded, of course, enhanced Nordic crossbow, Nordic dagger, Nordic mace, Dawnguard set of armor boots and gauntlets, and a padded for mantle, which by the way comes from immersive armors. Of course you can use a full set, this is purely aesthetic, it doesn't change much in the playability of the build, so you know, if you don't mind another mod, then you will look like this. The torch can be used to stack its ongoing damage if you bash real fast, which of course is best used with a lingering damage. Health poison on your weapon. Many mid-tier enemies can be dealt with easily with just a poison and a weapon strike followed by a series of shield bashes. This keeps you relatively safe and in control of the fight while allowing you to deal quite a lot of damage with no magic items whatsoever. Right, and that is basically all she wrote, I think. From a typical sneak, Archer starts spread out into this magnificent symphony of rather creative violence. When you have so many tactical options of the crowd control, damage over time, the brief immortality of dodge roll, the ability to resume sneak of the Shadow Warrior, the ranged option, the shield charge to dual wielding switch, holy crap, this guy can do a lot of stuff, and when this stuff is available, the rule of zero magic item is no longer a challenge. It actually just makes the combat more interesting. I hope, dear viewer, you will indeed have at least as much fun as I had when making the video. Remember to like, comment and possibly subscribe for more excellent builds. Consider supporting me via Subscribestar or the super thanks button down there, and we will see each other again. Bye bye!